Hello and welcome to the Energy and Consciousness Summit. I'm Sheila Durfler, your host, and today I have with me Elena Tonetti. And I am thrilled to have Elena with us today because I realized as I was researching more speakers to talk about birth and the impact of our birth on our life, as I watched one of the videos on her website, I realized that when I was pregnant with my son and dreaming of having a water birth and a dolphin birth, that her work was pivotal. And I think the public library had your book, Elena. And yeah, so I am thrilled to have you here today to talk with us more about your work and your dedication to this birthing and changing the way we birth in our culture. So welcome, Elena.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and have this opportunity.
Thank you. So Elena, would you explain to people a little bit about birth into being and just a little bit of your journey and how you came to be doing this work?
Well, that would take a lot more time because I'm doing this work since '82. So next year it will be 40 years. So in 40 years, everything changes in 40 years. You know, you do anything for 40 years, it's not going to look like what it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So it's been a constantly evolving process. And one thing is constant, though. In '82, when I had some sit down with myself and started asking questions, you know, what's going on this planet in our civilization, in my country, because I was still living in Russia at that time. And looking around, it didn't make any sense. People don't live according to common sense or some kind of, logic, truth, pleasure. For me, truth is pleasurable. You have to enjoy life. Everything on this planet can support that. And what we're doing, running ourselves to the ground in this rat race, and especially when I was young in Russia, it was before perestroika. It was still very Soviet, very heavy, behind the Iron Curtain. And it was like, what can we do? And this chain of answers that were coming up, basically it all came down to a very simple fact that life is such because such are men. So what is the next obvious answer? Well, we need to change the way we make man. Well, man given mankind. And the only answer I could come up with is that we can't just convince people to change. We need to start making people differently. It's really that primal, that the way we were conceived, gestated, born, and raised is informing our abilities, capacities, our likes, our dislikes, our choices that we make, professions that we take or don't take, who we'll live with. It's basically everything is rooted in the formative period. And I have to say that formative period is not just the way we were born, because just birth itself is only a fraction in that journey of establishing basic settings in our nervous system. The beginning of that process is actually happening before conception, because a few months before conception defines the quality of the sperm and the egg that would come together to create the fetus at some point. And everything that a woman is feeling, eating, doing, not doing is going to affect the process of building a little body. It's like everything becomes building blocks, and all of the emotional chemistry that she experiences during gestation, it all goes into that soup in which the fetus is floating. It all becomes that cocktail of hormones and releases and toxins and nutrients, and that's what makes baby's body, basically the quality of that body. And the way we'll be born would be defined by the quality of gestation, and then the way we were born would define the quality of our formative periods. How we digest food, how we develop, how we continue building the brain cells. And the most amazing thing that is a mystery to me, why it's still not in the school curriculum, like in 7th grade in sex ed classes. They should be talking about it, because on a cellular level, there is this mystery happening that absorbs all of our emotional experiences and registers it the same way as water memorizes the frequencies it is exposed to. At this point, I think everybody knows that water has memory. Have you heard about that?
Yes, I have.
So, yeah, the thing is, the fetus is basically 99.9% water. It's just all this watery molecules with big spaces between them. But we're never a solid item. We're just this constantly evolving, floating, flowing community of cells, of bacteria, of all kinds of stuff. We're constantly moving, and something is happening as we speak, as we sit right now. So when the baby is building its body inside mother's womb, everything goes into that bank of information and energy. It just gets registered and it's being accumulated. So this is how, on a cellular level, we acquire certain experiences as comfort zone, because it's just how it works. That's how the brain works. It registers everything to know how to survive. It's like any young of the species learns how to be the member of that species by simply absorbing the behaviors of the mother, of the other members of the tribe, right? Of that kind of animals. So we are absorbing everything. When we're young, we're like sponges, and that doesn't start after birth. It starts from the moment of conception. We are taking in everything. So, and it turns out that one of the biggest ingredients in our diet when we're inside our mother's wombs is the quality of relationship between the mother and the father. Turns out it takes precedent even above the nutritional value, the physical value of movement, exercise, the emotional component of that interaction, because every emotion that the mother experiences has its own chemical equivalent. It's written in her body, in her fluids, in her chemistry. So the baby gets the first-hand dose of mother's hormones. So if she's running on adrenaline, that's what baby will be receiving as predominant um, information about the world. If she is happy and welcoming this baby, loving the baby daddy, it's a completely different cocktail of hormones that the baby's absorbing and kind of runs through the system as information about the outside world. And given the fact that human history is not very favorable to women, to children, to just people in general, with all the wars and plagues and violence and famine and whatever disasters were happening, it's being transmitted because we were in the mother's body when she was still in her mother's body. And on many levels, we know everything that was happening from the beginning of time in our lineage. But also, it's not just our lineage, because the quality of experiences in our family's lineage is also programmed. You know, we humans are highly suggestible. So as we develop, we absorb the conditioning of our environment as norm. And when women were not treated as people, you know, that's basically a very new experience for women, for human women, to be treated as people, as humans with voting rights, with credit cards. You know, it's very new. It's like even in the 50s in America, even in the 60s, women were not allowed to have their own bank accounts or their own, you know, their own voting power, the decisions. Technically, they could vote, but they were not expected to understand what to vote for, what to want, what to, like, they had to be told, you know, that the historical mind-blowing experiment when some little guy told women to stop breastfeeding and they all dropped breastfeeding. It's like, what happened? What happened? Where are your own brains? Where are your own instincts, your own desires to put your nipple into your baby's mouth? Like, what happened? How come some little guy has more authority over how you feed your child than your own knowing? But that's how it happens. So we're just, we're very vulnerable in that place before we know who we are, before we claim our power, before we put our foot down and say, no more. You know what? I'm going to be my own authority. My body is my territory, and I'm the one who will do what is good for me and for my children. You know, there is that leap, and there is that gap that we're now leaping over. Like, even right now, as we talking, you dare to speak, I dare to speak, and there are millions and millions out there that suddenly woke up and want to have a peace of mind and want to make their own decisions.
Yeah. So you covered so much ground already, Elena. Would you elaborate a little bit more on how, if people want to move forward feeling more connected and more free from, you know, the programming of, you know, just like all the stuff we have taken in from before we were even born, the stuff that we've taken in from conception through our gestation, through the birth experience, and then life, of course. If people are working towards becoming more aware and more free, how can they work with their birth, their lineage, their conception, in order to become more aware, more conscious in this lifetime?
Yeah, it's a big question because it does require working with somebody who really knows how to hold you, how to hold the space for you to feel safe in stepping into that unknown, into that uncharted territory when the very idea of dissociating from the identity that we chose before without knowing that we're choosing it. Because you see, you can do a lot on your own, a lot of research, a lot of listening to people, reading books, but at some point the cortex that receives all the mental information gets saturated. Mm-hmm. And it needs to go into the body on the cellular level where the damage was done in the first place. And in that place, you need to find somebody who can actually hold you there, physically hold you there, because doing everything on your own, it's kind of re-traumatizes the nervous system, because we've been doing things on our own for so long. And I think this lockdown is really bringing it into our faces. Like, now I want to connect, I want to touch, I want to hug, I want to hold somebody, I want to be held. I really know this is what I want. I want to connect on the raw, intimate, immediate way with some other human being that knows how to connect. And it's like the whole world was brought to that pivotal point of extreme starvation of physical touch and physical connection, because most of the earthly traditions and spirituality and religions were kind of geared towards removing ourselves from, you have to meditate to go out of the body, to go into nirvana, to astral planes, to, abandon the desires, the emotions, detach yourself from everything here and just go up and up, offer yourself to higher planes, because we're spirits having this insignificant earthly experience. Well, guess what? While we're alive and walking this earth, we are as much humans as we are spirits. We have to honor the body, because we've been spirits before we had a body. We will be spirits again for aeons. Right now, there is this precious opportunity to have 2 arms and 2 legs and 2 eyes and a mouth, and use it and touch, connect, hug, kiss, do everything that you cannot do when you don't have the body. Right. So it's really important to be able to not just think your way out of your dilemma and your feelings of unsatisfactory, kind of traumatic, negative feelings, but connecting with somebody. And if you have a computer and you have access to internet, just look around, and there are plenty of practitioners that are also needing to work with somebody because they were closed for so long. It's really time to revive the transaction between those who are able to offer their service in loving kindness and skills. So just look who is available around, and whatever form it would take, whether it's just a massage or go dancing or starting new relationship. It's all healing at this point, because we're already hit rock bottom. We all know what it's like to be alone and isolated, and now we just don't want to wait anymore. We really want to have it all. It's I'm very grateful, because so many people that were sleepwalking and basically dormant and taking for granted all the opportunities we had, we're not using it. So now it's like dance classes are full, yoga classes, everything is opening, and people are hungry, starving for just going to a music festival.
Yes.
Yeah, and there are so many practitioners. In my understanding, Birth into Being method consists of 40 different processes and exercises, very different from each other. And I was just watching for 40 years. I had a lot of time. So I kind of pulled together in a very coherent way what works for most people, but doesn't work for some people. It's kind of combination of aspects that, in my understanding, prevent graceful, conscious, ecstatic connection with somebody and conception of the new child, and gestating in the way nature intended, with the proper flow of oxytocin through the body that allows beautiful ecstatic birth, and makes it much easier to parent a child when all the veils are lifted and love flows through the heart and through the eyes, through the soul, and there is a real connection with the baby. It's a very different experience of parenting, and it's a very different experience for children to be raised in that atmosphere of support and welcoming and kindness and understanding. So but my courses got closed this year. I just had to cancel 2 of my courses, one in Germany, one in here in Oregon. It is just such nonsense. But yeah, okay, I'm going to be talking about it then. If I can't have people around me, I hope that we will have full schedule next year. Mm-hmm. So I'll be glad to see everybody at my course next year. And next year it's in Germany and one in Oregon. So yeah, on my website there is there will be information, because it all just happened. I didn't make new dates for Oregon yet. I do have new dates for Germany already. But to answer your question, you don't have to wait for me for my courses. Just go look around, because at this point, there is very few places on earth at this point where nobody does some kind of healing work.
Right.
Yeah. But one thing that I want to bring to your attention, that we have cortex responsible for mental aspect of our life. We have limbic brain responsible for emotional experience. And we have reptilian brain responsible for physiology. So ideally, what is the most effective is when you bring all 3 into action at the same time, some kind of process that would trigger all of them with the same intensity at the same time. That's what I found to be most efficient, because if you're just addressing the physical body, It's just physiology moves, but then the emotion and mental is kind of left behind. Or if you're just doing talk therapy, as cortex is propelling forward, but the body is left behind. And body doesn't like that. It just wants to be part of the, what about me? What about me? And it just kind of starts, pulling the blanket. And it's like, I didn't get it. What are you talking about? I didn't get it. I didn't get it. It's like the body, the psychotherapists are not allowed to touch. They can't really help integrate on in the flesh and bones. What I understand is that you have to not just to create a mental construction of what happened and how is it that I'm so screwed up, but you need to actually find the new reference point, the feeling, the sensation in the body, in the emotional body and in the physical body, from where it is to where you want it to be. So that moment of integration of the new understanding, what you get something, you need to really land it in your blood and bones. However that particular practitioner is able to do it. If it's body work, then they need to trigger a cortex and talk through, like invite a person into some kind of mental and emotional experience while the body is being engaged. And vice versa, if it's just emotional landscape, then we need to include the words and the movement and certain types of breathing, certain whatever. There are so many healing modalities that however you work with people, try to engage them as a whole, not just some aspects of their being.
Right. The three prongs of being a multi-dimensional being and finding work that resonates with you, but that is addressing all three aspects of us, of who we are.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Elena, is there anything else about your work or about I like on your website how you're talking about the ramifications of this work for humanity as a whole. And if you could maybe talk a little bit about that, about how, our healing impacts not just our journey, impacts not just us as an individual, but that, it impacts humanity. So can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, every person counts who can hold some kind of a bubble of safety and sanity and common sense and high frequency and just emanating reasonable, kind attitude towards themselves, towards their loved ones, towards their neighbors, towards their community. Every person who is able to maintain the level-headed level of compassion to what's happening out there, and from that place to be able to offer help and just resonate with us. Quite a while ago, I read a book by David Hawkins. It's called Power versus Force. And in that book, he found a way of rating mental and emotional states. And from 0 to 1,000, he rated our experiences. And in that book, he actually says something very, very valuable, that one person resonating at 500, and the level of 500 can neutralize the negativity of 100,000 people. One person resonating at 700 can neutralize the negativity of, like, I don't remember the exact number, but it's a really, really large number. So it was like, oh, that's what we're doing. We're just, when we're taking care of our own clarity, the state of clear, relaxed, focused attention to staying present with the moment and staying kind and staying smart, because you really need to be smart these days. You know, we can't afford anymore to live on autopilot and have other people dictate what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. It's getting very, very important for us to understand what's good for us and what's not good for us. And that is only possible when we're grounded and present. Because when we are dissociated, we're very vulnerable. When I am in my body, I am invincible. I am very vulnerable when I'm kind of dissociated. That's what I know. That's what I understand. So that cultivation of cultivation of the capacity to be present in the body, not just think that I'm present, but my body knows that I'm here, that my soul is in alignment with my body and my spirit is in alignment with my body. And then I'm very safe. In fact, that is the only safe place there is. Everything else is illusion. Everything else makes us very, very vulnerable. And it doesn't come because, oh, I think I'm going to be aligned. No, it really takes mastery. It takes practice. It takes dedication, commitment, and understanding the choices of activities, nutrients, interactions, how much news we're watching, what we're buying into, what we're buying. Mm-hmm. All of that plays into this equation. And my call to humanity right now is, like, get real. Get really, really quiet and learn to understand what is good, not from what you're being constantly told, but from your gut feeling. Like, what we are so bombarded by messages, but look outside the window, look around, look at what's happening in your neighborhood, in the school, in kids' school, in your women's group, in your church, in your hospital. Like, actually go look at what's happening there. Pay attention to what people look like on the streets. Like, really allow yourself to relate to your environment from that real center of gravity of your being, not from just constant bombardment with messages.
Yes.
But
yes.
Did you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes. It's so important, what you're saying, and it's something that I have felt very strongly myself, especially in the last year. So I really love that is where the conversation has taken us. So, I'm actually getting very emotional. um, so, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Elena. So,
thank you for inviting me to speak. Yeah. Do you have any more questions?
I'm actually like, I have so much emotion coming up from what you just shared that I'm having a hard time finding another question. So, yeah,
well, I am very happy to see that, to witness that, because it means that you're alive. It means that you are allowing yourself to feel in real time, not to think your emotions, but to actually feel them as they're happening. It's actually a rare ability these days, because we are so conditioned to think through. Like a lot of people, when you ask them, what do you feel? They would say, I think I feel this and this. And
right.
No, don't tell me what you think you feel. Tell me what you actually feel.
Yes.
And there is that discrepancy because thinking is cultivated. We're expected to learn and be clever and be responsible adults and all of this. Cortex activity is very prevalent in our upbringing, in our education. But the limbic activity, the ability to feel, was really kind of intercepted with. It was when we went into the state of dissociation at birth, when the baby goes into the sensory overload, because the maternity ward is, the lights are so bright, the noises are so loud, the touch, the cold hands, the harshness of all the shots that go in, and cutting the umbilical cord is like a major assault to the body, because up to 2/3 of baby's blood is still in the placenta. It's an absolute crime against humanity to cut the placenta right after birth. It has to have the time for all the blood be delivered to the baby after birth. So all of those experiences, when they cut the placenta, the baby is forced to take breath with the lungs that are still collapsed. They're still, folded from just coming through the birth canal. Everything collapsed and folded. So it's just excruciating pain to take that first breath. And you have to give the baby time. It's so simple. Just don't do anything. Let the lungs open, and everything needs to get unfolded. So all that sensory overload that is upgraded to the status of norm all over the world, all of that shocks us into that state of dissociation that most of the people on this planet Earth never recover from. Because in order to come back from that assault to our systems, it would take really skillful parenting, really skillful understanding of what happened to the baby, how we can unravel that trauma out of the newborn's body, especially if they, like in America, they still like 80% of babies get circumcised right after birth, which is just unbelievable injury on every level, because they do it without anesthetics. They cut off that foreskin that contains 20,000 erogenous nerve endings.
I know.
Yeah, it's so. What happens next somehow in that state of dissociation, we're expected to learn to function and learn all the rules and learn all the, letters and numbers and behaviors that are so unnatural to us as animals. As we need to learn to behave a certain way. Oh goodness. Yeah. And given all of that, it's just amazing how many people are still functional after that early formative assault.
Yeah, like so much violence on such little bodies. It's
exactly. It's basically the quality of our civilization is reflecting this crazy way we make children. Yeah. And it's so logical and it's so simple. Just stop doing all this. Just stop it. Nobody needs it. We have those amazing bodies, like amazing bodies that are able to create in our likeness. We're goddesses. We're able to create something that did not exist before. It's like, how cool is that? And given the enormous, mind-blowing complexity of our anatomical, hormonal mechanisms that we possess, that supreme intelligence, I don't have a name for it, like God or whatever, there gotta be some kind of supreme blueprint, according to which I can only give birth to a human child, not a cat or a mouse or a giraffe. I can only have a human baby. So that's just simple common sense. It means that there is some mechanism that, it's easy to call it blueprint because I just don't know how else to call it. I don't need to call it anything else. I just know that there is this something that put all of this together, whatever it is. I know for sure that something did not just forget the mechanism of procreation that every single species on this planet has. It's built in.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be able to procreate like any cat, any wild animal out there, because we have basically the same mechanism. The difference between me and gorilla is just really very tiny. It's about 300 genes out of 30,000. So that difference did not come at the expense of ability to procreate.
Yeah.
So we are equipped with everything we need to be able to open up and let the baby out without all this crazy machinery and chemistry that is being injected and I don't know. But in order to give birth well, we do need to recover the memory of our ability to give birth, you see, because if a woman was not born well, her body was not activated into that knowing, because a woman learns about giving birth while being born. So that's another side of the drama, because every girl that was born via C-section skipped the whole, that was not downloaded, into her body. So she needs to make up for the missing classes, missing activation of genes that are concerned procreation. So she's right that she is afraid of birth because her body literally doesn't know. It skipped school on that day.
Yep.
So then it means that she needs to find a way of making up for that, learning, finding ways of getting confidence and coming into the place of knowing. It's like, oh yes, I am really able to do this. Because she is technically speaking able. We are magical creatures.
Yes. And I love that there is this sense of awe. And you know, the way that you're talking about this, it just it can translate to from, you know, that sense of awe that we can make a being, right? Like we can make a human being, but that intelligence lives in every cell of us all the time, right? Like that divine intelligence is there. Like, you know, it's something that I think if I tap into that in my meditations or even on a walk in nature or tuning into my own body and what my body needs in any moment, it's like that sense of awe can completely change the way you live your day. Does that? So, yeah.
Absolutely. And it inspires enormous gratitude to the body for being alive, for being able to experience all of the incredible joys that you can only experience when you have the body. And it's not only about making babies, it's about reinventing yourself on a daily basis. It's about rebirthing yourself every so often and finding new ways to express your creativity, your sexuality, your desire to learn more about how else can I enjoy my life? How else can I bring it up a notch? And there is so little of it because I am now in my mid-60s and I wish I'd had somebody in front of me walking the path that would just help me prevent a lot of
Yes.
that I could just, didn't have to learn it the hard way. But I just made a fool of myself more than once, and okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
Let's not do this again. Oops.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that's part of it. That's just I am now enjoying my life more than ever. I had a fantastic year. I'm just really loving my life, my body, my home, my family. It's just beautiful.
That is beautiful. Well, thank you, Elena. I really appreciate your generosity and just everything you shared today. Can you just let people know where they can find you so as we wrap up?
My website, birthintobeing.com. There is also a YouTube channel that has, 50, 60 videos that lots of hundreds of hours of me talking or doing something or showing or and some of my graduates actually still do. I have graduates in 22 countries that are offering it in all major languages. And there is a button on my website that can take you to people that were trained with me, that do Skype one-on-one sessions, that do webinars, online courses, that offer local gatherings and groups. So it's help is on the way.
Great. Great. And Elena's links will be below the video. And I just want to thank everyone who tuned in today for watching this amazing interview. And I will see you in the next interview. And thanks for being here today. Bye for now.